Hey, Steve.
Hi, Jim.
So, with the America 250 celebration upon us, I thought maybe we could do an episode today. Go right back to the basics. Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and
Americana music.
that'll work, man.
And hello and welcome to Two Guys Talking About Records, your most favorite podcast in the whole wide world because it's two guys talking about records. Unless you want to talk about letters or something, then we might not be your favorite, but we can be. All you got to do is listen.
There we go.
And my name is Steve, and I'm a record collector.
And my name's Jim, and I own a record store, but I do, of course, dabble in collecting. Just a little bit here and there, but it's always fun. But
Rush.
there we go, and Pink Floyd and others and such. But kind of a fun episode today, where we're going to be digging into Americana music, not necessarily American albums, but stuff from the heartland. You're a Midwesterner, tried and true,
Yep.
a little bit further south and west than me, just a Michigander. I'm an upper Midwesterner all my life, but this has got just really a genre of music that has got some historic roots in folk and blues, but there's something very signature about it, and something that is difficult to reproduce unless it needs a boost from overseas. Once in a while.
Yes. Go UK.
There we go. But we'll dive into some of our favorite Americana albums, and some that I'm going to stretch one. I'm going to really stretch the definition as we get close to the end of today's show, Steve. I'll see what kind of heat I take on that.
All right.
And then I do have one news item to sandwich in between there that's, for me, fairly amusing, and I think that you will get a little bit of a kick out of it too, but we'll see where that goes. But, as we do each and every week on the show, we like to start off with our most recent pickups and additions to the collections, which are supposed to be, steadily holding true at a certain number, but that never seems to be the case, does it?
Well, I'm still waiting on a package, so mine's is still steadily holding.
You do have a fun package headed your way, and another one that's going out first thing, I think Monday. So we'll talk about that after we get off the air today. But
Okay.
cool. So what do you have en route this week?
Well, it's a soundtrack. I just did that whole thing on soundtracks. This is the theory of everything. And this movie was about Stephen Hawkins. Phenomenally good movie. So interesting. But the soundtrack was done by Johan Johansson, who passed away, but I love his music. And this is one I used to have, and I wanted it back, but it goes for a ton of money. And so I've just been waiting my time for it to come in at the right price, on Discogs as I'm watching. And finally, it hit a price that was pretty good. And so I went and I snapped it up. It's just a beautiful sounding soundtrack. And again, the movie was so interesting, really good. Just what had happened to Stephen Hawkins, the disease, and how his wife stood by him and everything, and yet what he was able to do. I ordered this off a newer vendor off Discogs, which I will say most people say, well, that's a gamble. Well, someone has to order from them or they'll
Yeah.
never become an older vendor, right?
Or get any
But
kind
it
of
is.
ratings? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I'm sure his mom and dad had given him good ratings. So, and so I ordered it, and I ordered a couple albums and I'm waited. It's past a week and a half. Nothing's been shipped. And that's so finally I put him in the note. And he says, I was on vacation. So, but I'm back now. And he got it out right away. But I began to kind of get worried about it. I go,
Yeah.
is it coming or not? But it did. It came in beautiful shape. This is just a great condition. This is it's music on vinyl, number 252.
Out of
And an
2000,
absolute
probably.
gorgeous soundtrack. Probably. I don't know. I guess I could have looked in
The
Discogs.
the
to
MOV
see, but
runs are usually about 2000, right around in there.
yeah. I
Cool.
delighted to have that finally, but it just crazy amount of money that thing can go for. And the other was my Fuzz Club record of the month for last month because my address wasn't changed, and finally the post office shipped it over,
Oh,
which in Midland, post office says, nah, if it's music, we don't ship it back. We don't ship it over to you. So when I moved, I didn't get some records.
yeah.
But in Denver, I guess we will. So this is from the group Ignea, Ignea, beats me, Mere Revelations, number 262 of 300.
Oh,
It's Fuzz Club, it's limited. And we have pretty red-black splatter vinyl, very dark and mysterious. Looks like a massacre happened or something. Pretty much shoegaze electronic is the music on here, which is what you get out of a lot of Fuzz Club. I've only been able to spin it once so far, so it's hard for me to say where I'm at with it. It didn't just like grab me and says, oh my God, top 10 album of the year happening here. But, there are just those albums you got to play a few times to see what you like. And so that I'm going to have to do with this one. Fuzz Club comes up with some that I absolutely like and some that are okay, which would be any record club, right? That's the way it goes.
It's a gamble when you're subscribing.
Yes, it is. So, but have that. So that is my 2 for the week, Jim. But I did find some stuff on Discogs to order. And of course, I'm always reaching out to you. And hey, can you get this?
Yep, and sometimes it's like crapshoot too, I guess.
Yep.
But you should have a package showing up fairly soon. Hopefully next week before the 4th, you get that. A couple, just 2 for me this week as well. And this first one, one of our customers, I need to apologize to. I know she watches the podcast. So Sue, I'm sorry I broke down and our distributors could not come through. I think this RSD item was discontinued, even though they say we'd get more. So I had to look elsewhere, and I popped up with a copy of Stuart Copeland and the Rhythmatist. And Sue was looking for one too, but I had to go get myself one as well. So outside the realm of suppliers. This is the RSD reissue from April, and I've had the original version of this in my collection since probably 1985 when it came out, or maybe 86 is when I grabbed it. I love this record from Stuart Copeland. It's his recordings of sound samples from throughout Africa. He took a trip throughout the majority of Africa, recorded a bunch of stuff, brought back, and then turned it into, well, I don't want to say a Police album because, man, does this sound like the Police in spots. It is great. It's a different cover on this one. And it's a different cover. It is on just really, there's the original cover in the inner sleeve. And this is on a very neat translucent blue vinyl. And it came with an autographed insert. And that's true.
Oh, neat.
It's truly an autograph from Stuart Copeland on there from his recording. This album, like I said, it's always been a favorite of mine, Steve. And I had to, when I added it into Discogs, I got a little chuckle because originally it lists a couple of different genres. But when whoever put this new one into Discogs had some fun with the identification on this. So let me call this up because it is amusing as all get out. The genre, let me find it here. There it is. It lists the genre as jazz, rock, reggae, folk, world and country, stage and screen in the style of zouk, symphonic rock, fusion, score, ethereal, jazz rock, reggae pop.
So I would just say everything. It's the whole thing.
A little bit of everything. But this is such a cool album. And yes, I have the OG, but I wanted the insert and the blue vinyl and just to listen to this and enjoy it again. That one is on Spotify. So have you listened to that before? I think you probably have.
I actually have it. Yes.
Oh, you do? Oh, you have the OG. Cool. Mm-hmm. So I'll put the sound sample up on there. The second edition is a new release, and I was a little unsure on this. I saw it in our suppliers. It came out, I think, a week or two back, and I ordered a couple. One went from the store almost instantly, which then told me a good thing, and maybe I should find another one. This is from an artist called, her name is Renee Fleming, and she is paired up with Bella Fleck on this, who I've got a couple of other Bella Fleck stuff. He's another great artist who coincidentally toured Africa and came back with recordings and turned that into not so much an album, but a documentary with his Throw Down Your Heart. Just a great documentary from Bella Fleck. But this one, Renee Fleming, is a soprano, and I need to call my info up on her as well, because this is very intriguing to me. And she is a American soprano from Pennsylvania originally, but she sings principally opera and jazz. She has done a couple of other, more popular music or contemporary music recordings, but primarily opera and jazz. And so what we've got on this one with Bella Fleck is, and I think she explains it very nicely inside the gatefold in her liner notes. She talks about growing up among musicians and educators. She absorbed many different genres, not just her classical jazz and musical theater, but even stuff. Her grandfather was a fiddler and a drummer in rural Pennsylvania. So as a teenager, she was exposed to that. She began writing songs and was influenced by the likes of Joni Mitchell, Janis Ian, Dan Fogelberg, and Jim Croce, strongly influenced by folk music traditions. And so she was very happy to pair up with Bella Fleck on essentially a folk album. And this has some great guests on it too, including Dolly Parton. Vince Gill sings with her on this, and Jerry Douglas. And the one with Jerry Douglas, who is to the dobro what Bella Fleck is to the banjo, just a phenomenal player. So this is interesting because you can tell that when you listen to it that Renee Fleming is a classically trained operatic singer, classical and jazz singer. And so to put that type of a voice mixed in with country, folk, and, well, in this case, Americana music, it's odd feeling at first, but it does really kind of work because you can tell that that's a classically trained voice in which you would normally hear. I don't want to besmirch folk singers or country singers, but it feels a little more rustic, where this does not. Does that make sense?
I agree. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally makes sense.
So, yeah, the name of this album, by the way, is The Fiddle and the Drum by Renee Fleming with Bella Fleck. Musically, this is just a beautiful record. It's a beautiful album. I love the sound of it. I love the mix of that folk and the dobro and the banjo with that kind of classic operetta singing. And the Dolly Parton one, I'm not a huge Dolly Parton fan. I respect her tremendously, but that's just a great song with her on there as well.
Oh, interesting.
So something to look for.
Well, obviously, I bet there's a way I can probably hear a sample of that, Jim.
Funny you should mention that, Steve, because as folks know, we do put together a Spotify playlist that kind of compiles some of the songs and artists that we talk about each week. Excuse me. And you can find that playlist in the description of wherever you were watching and or listening to today's podcast. Just scroll down a little bit. You'll see that Spotify link. Click on that and you can go through everything. We're going to have a lot of great music in that playlist today too, by the way. Not just the ones that we did with our pickups, but the ones that we get into here as we talk about Americana, which, by the way, the Fleming and Fleck will fit in beautifully with that.
Okay.
So before we do that, Steve, I do have a, well, let's call it an interesting news item that I ran across earlier this week, and I wanted to bring that up to you. There is currently, and I don't want to say that this is a feud between Taylor Swift and Kirk Hammett of Metallica, but it's definitely between Metallica and the Swift fans, the Swifties. So this started a little bit earlier with a concert in Budapest in which Kirk Hammett was playing, Metallica was playing, and he was kind of spotted wearing a T-shirt under his guitar that said Taylor Swift is a CIA psyop. So, a psychological operation. No telling where he got that, but that got the attention of some Swiftie fans. The article, this one from Consequence of Sound, says that he's being dubbed the Unforgiven by the Swifties. The guitarist has drawn the ire of the Swift fans after wearing a t-shirt depicting a blank-eyed Taylor Swift with the words, "Taylor Swift is a CIA psyop." He had the garment on at the center, or the garments at the center of a controversy, doing a June 13th concert in Budapest. So they did not like that one bit. The Taylor Swift fan archive tweeted on X that Kirk Hammett from the has-been band Metallica was wearing a Taylor Swift is a CIA psyop shirt on stage, to which there was just a ton of backlash thrown their way. So, but you know what, Steve? It's not done yet, because Kirk Hammett is now adding fire to that controversy. After the t-shirt controversy, this is from NME, Metallica's Kirk Hammett says, quote, "Right now, songwriting in pop music is crap." He says, sorry for all you pop fans out there, but that's just kind of the way it is. So, yeah, this is, I don't know. This is amusing to me, at least.
Well, here's what I want to see happen. I want this to become like a West Side Story thing, where you have the Swifties on one side, the Metallica fans on the other side. They're snapping their fingers, they're coming at each other, a little dance going on, and then they rumble. That would be excellent. I just think it'd be phenomenally good and well worth watching.
You know, if we could throw in a couple of other genres instead of West Side Story, we could bring it up as the Warriors, maybe, with multiple music gangs. You got the Swifties over here.
Yep, the Swifties and Metallicas.
Yep. Oh, there's going to be more. You know what? I think that truly, Steve, there's nothing more American than a CIA psyop. So, no, I didn't go there. But let's talk Americana music, if we could, here for a moment, please. This is, I think, a great time to celebrate it, too, heading into the weekend of the 4th, the 250th birthday party for the U.S. of A. Great time to celebrate, and we've had a lot of great American music of all genres that, you know, we talk about each and every week here, and we delve, obviously. We've gone overseas and talked about UK punk versus US punk, but when it comes to music that is referred to as Americana, this is another, I think, overall larger umbrella genre that feeds to and from lots of other different ones. It's got its roots in folk music from the Appalachians, the east, southeast, and through there, the Great Plains as well, and even some out in California. There's a wide, I guess what I'm trying to say, there's a wide swath of music that is truly American, that it's not quite country, it's not quite folk, it's not quite rock, but it's this amalgamation of everything. And I think the thing that makes it stand out most, and maybe you can carry forward with this because you said you had a huge collection, but I think what stands out most is the songwriting and the storytelling aspect of it. Not necessarily the musical styling, but the way that these songs are presented and the way that their words reach those of us who love this country. Or have issues with this country and protest songs of some sorts.
Yes. Well, which is a large part also of Americana.
Yep.
So it goes both ways. The beginning, and I bought this, and I brought it back after the flood because I loved it so much. The Anthology of American Folk Music, and this is from Harry Smith, and he went out. And it's your early blues, it's your early folk, it's your early country, putting it all together. But basically, it's the roots of Americana music. This is where it's starting, and a lot of Americana music takes songs from this and puts it, updates it. And this box set, it's a 6 CD box set. I'm not sure if it's ever come on vinyl. It may have. It may have recently come out on vinyl, if I remember right, but I'm not positive. But it comes with this a fantastic book that really goes through all the artists in here, their influence. It has the main ones, they get a full page, and then as it goes, the not so big ones, they don't get as much. But it tracks through all the songs. I remember, this has always got like a 5-star review, because of the importance it is to American music. which American music comes from a lot of other countries. The immigrants brought it over, but then we changed it and it became our own version, American music. So such a wonderful starting place, and for anybody who has any kind of interest, this is just a fascinating 6 CD set that's just an absolute delight to play because of what you're going to hear. You're not going to like everything in it. Some of it's, a lot of it's really old stuff, man.
Oh yeah.
But you feel it, and you could see progression of music, which is what I really enjoy about this. So, it's not about jazz. This is that folk, blues, and country that is what we call Americana.
We did that episode on blues, the older blues, a few episodes back. But when you mix in the wider, as I mentioned, the umbrella of Americana that folds in the blues with the folk, I've got something akin to that. Not a full box set, but this is called High Atmosphere. It's ballads and banjo tunes from Virginia and North Carolina. This is a collected sampling of sounds from John Cohen, done in November of 1965. Much like we mentioned Stuart Copeland and Bela Fleck traveling Africa, recording sounds and music. In this case, he traveled to Appalachia. John Cohen traveled to Appalachia, recording music and stories from folks. So these are just folks, just people. This one was released as 74 vinyl version of this, but his recordings were from 65. And there are some phenomenal early bluegrass, early blues, and just some very sparse, raspy guitar happening in a lot of these. And again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find any samples of this or not on Spotify. That may be a little tough, but these are folks that you're really not going to hear of because I don't think that they were really artists. They were just people that he found as he traveled through Appalachia gathering that sound. But their songs, most definitely. There's a version of "Oh Death," which most folks would be familiar with or from the soundtrack of "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Speaking of Jerry Douglas, by the way. But this is just a very haunting version on here. So yeah, the compilations, your box set especially, is a great launch point for folks to begin exploring. But that, as you mentioned, really kind of grew, especially into the 60s. Now, we've been kind of saying centering in the Midwest and the Appalachian area, but I think you've got a couple that really kind of start us off with on the West Coast, which really kind of had the influence of the West Coast sound, but that broke off a little bit, trying to be a little more country blues folkish.
Yeah, I definitely. So, because rock is always changing, right? Music's always going, and I think one of the albums you would find would be the early Byrds. Now this album is just the Byrds singles, because I don't need a lot of Byrds, but I wish I did have the first one with Mr. Tambourine Man. I mean, it's easy to find. I just haven't ever bought it. I used to have it. But here, the Byrds, you can definitely hear, especially those first couple albums before they went totally psych, the feeling of Americana, especially as they take Bob Dylan songs and bring them in. I mean, the Newport Folk Festival was a big part of bringing more of this folk music to the masses. Woody Guthrie, I talk about a guy who a lot of people use, especially with Americana music. And the Byrds were influenced by that. They're hearing it. I mean, Dylan was a big influence. With so much of that stuff. And so we had that. And then, of course, the offshoot from them became Buffalo Springfield. And there was that rock and country, which is basically what you find in a lot of Americana music. Of course, then they went all out when they went to Sweetheart of the Rodeo and that. I mean, that was the Byrds. That went all country. But Buffalo Springfield was a nice... again, you had an Americana type stuff on here with some other things, but I think both of those were early, starting points.
And looking up just different types of Americana music, one that popped up that is directly related to the ones you just brought up was Neil Young and some of his solo stuff. Okay, Canadian, but still, especially in Western Canada, you've got a lot of that American style flair of music. He's
Yeah.
from, I think, is he from Western Canada, or I think maybe been through
I,
there, but
I,
yeah,
I believe so. I can't say for sure, but I mean, it's very Midwest, middle
yeah,
part of Canada.
it is. It is. I only have a couple of Neil Young in my collection. Rust Never Sleeps and Harvest, of course, in through there. But Harvest especially is it's got that storytelling feel to it, obviously, through there.
Hmm.
And you mentioned Dylan. I guess we did get a little ahead of ourselves. And we probably could have and should have used Dylan as a starting point, but we did do a full Dylan episode at one point. But obviously, he was the first steps of that bridge between more classical folk music, the Pete Seeger, the Woody Guthrie, some of the older country and older blues, and into that more modern psych, which led to the psych era, the rock era as well.
Hmm.
So not to downplay Dylan's influence on this, but obviously he's a big catalyst for carrying it forward into the '60s.
Yeah, so true. We as we've discussed in many episodes, when someone like Dylan comes up and they have this kind of Americana type thing and it sells a
Hmm.
lot, everybody's out there looking for, we want this, we want that next Dylan, and you have the explosion that happens.
You did in the late '60s, and this is for me. It's always been kind of a difficult. I've got the younger me has had a love hate relationship with country music, the more traditional country music. As we've talked about on previous episodes, I'm coming around thanks to more modern bluegrass, thanks to things like Oh
Hmm.
Brother, thanks to folks like Bella Fleck and Jerry Douglas, who I have albums of their own as well. So I'm coming around on that. But John Prine is another one that has been kind of very interesting to me because it's very country more than anything. Yeah, you got a cool John
Yeah.
Prine in there too. I'm not overly familiar with him, other than the fact that he kind of came up. And I've never really thought of Chicago as having much of a folk scene, but you usually think New York. But this is kind of where he came up, and he was invited to New York with Chris Christopherson to play a
Hmm.
show there with him, and that's where he was essentially discovered and signed to some record deals. But Prine, I think, is rightly celebrated as one of the great American songwriters of the
Yeah.
last part of the last century,
You
regardless
know,
of the
I
musical
and
stylings.
I I didn't pull one of his albums, but John Hyatt
Oh
is
yeah, yep,
another one that
yep.
really has a lot of Americana. I mean, some of his stuff gets a lot harder rock, which is great,
It
but
does.
some of his 80s stuff is very much has that
Yep,
Americana feel. And John Mellencamp,
yep.
if you think of some of his, not again, he has some hard rock and stuff, but he also does has that Americana feel in a lot of his music.
I should have pulled it and I didn't. I've got a fairly recent, within the past 8 years or so, John Hyatt album, which goes back to some of the Americana bluegrass roots. That is just a great album as well. And I think Jerry Douglas is on there with him. He gets around, by the way. So, but yeah, Hyatt and Mellencamp, those are another great pair to bring in on that. Again, I feel like I'm getting ahead because after Dylan, we probably should have mentioned, because he's directly tied, and that is with the band.
Oh yes,
So
very much. Oh wow, yeah.
music from Big Pink and the band.
Hmm.
One of my all-time favorite, and it's a live concert album as well as the movie, is The Last Waltz, that brings in
Hmm.
just a tremendous amount of great artists for that. But these guys, I think, really kind of, I don't want to say that they paved the way for, because they kind of came up really around at the same time, or maybe a little bit after, with the likes of the Allman Brothers, which then we begin getting into more Southern rock, where things get a little
Hmm.
heavier with that, which then leads you to, I don't know, things like Skinner. And if you want, we're not going down the Southern rock route yet,
Yeah.
but still, especially with their involvement with Dylan and so many others, the band, I think, is a great example of that coming into the '70s type of Americana music.
Well, they did. They took a lot of our for. They're another Canadian group, except for one American. coming out of Canada
Yep.
and coming down here. But they did take a lot of those folk tunes. Obviously, they played with Dylan. They had the
Yep.
basement tapes with Dylan, and Dylan was a big influence to them. Uh, but
Hence the
I
band.
think that's, yeah, the band. Exactly. That's what they were. Hey, we're the band. It's because, they were always backing up
Yep.
people. But it is yeah, you talk Americana. I think the band is such an important aspect of it.
Maybe we need to expand that and just say North Americana to cover
Yeah,
to
yeah.
cover both of those. But
What would you
it's
think then, Jim? I was just going to throw out Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska.
yep, exactly. I'm not a huge Springsteen fan, but I
Me
again I
neither.
recognize the importance of that. Of that, even though he's an East Coaster, but yeah, he really kind of took the Great Plains in, didn't he? With that.
He did, he did, and it's definitely a slower album,
Yep.
but it is the songs that that he puts out there that are very interesting. One of his most highly praised albums when it came out was kind of like, what is this? And with time, it's made its mark. But to me, that would be more his Americana album. I mean, he's
Yep.
always had a very American feel.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, his
Yes.
music is when you think, the 250th. I mean, Springsteen has that feel to it. The celebration, but also the protest.
Yep.
But I think Nebraska was the thought. Yeah. Okay.
One of the other ones that really we cannot escape talking about is going to be Tom Petty and his solo stuff, his
Yeah.
work with the Heartbreakers as well. Damn the Torpedoes is a great album for me, but Southern Accents is another cool one to toss in there. But carry that forward even with Petty's work with the Traveling Wilburys that brings in, granted you got
Hmm.
Jeff Lynne in there, but it brings in Orbison and Dylan and Harrison's going to be British as well. But the Traveling Wilburys, I think more than anything, just feels like good old just Midwestern American music.
Yeah. Totally agree on that. Yes, very much so. Great album, especially the first one. Their second one was old. Well, the second one I don't think had Orbison, if I remember
No, I
right.
don't. I
He
don't
had
believe so. He'd
passed.
passed by then.
Yeah, but yeah, the first one's great. I have, from the 90s there, we're kind of into that. I'm going to just bring up Johnny Cash
Oh yeah.
and, part his American recordings. Now, obviously, extremely country, but in the 90s, to bring him back, Rick Rubin went out, recorded him, did the American recordings, and he took so many songs, folk songs, and brought them in. Rubin kind of updated it, but very much that Americana feel that a lot of people use this as a jumping point. They go, okay, listen to this. This is great stuff. We need to do something similar. And it was great to see how the public reacted to it because
Hmm.
no one was buying his country albums. It just wasn't anything. But you take new songs and old traditional songs and you give that update. Though some of it's just Cash and a guitar, but it's done right and with passion. And I just think I totally fell in love with his American recordings. I
There
just
was there
pretty darn
five
awesome
five
stuff.
of those, or was there six? I'm trying to remember how many were in that series.
Five, four or five, four or
Four or five.
five.
American
One of the
Five was the one that
last
had
one,
the
he passed
yep.
away.
American
Yeah,
Five had
and
the alternative covers, Nine Inch Nails and such.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
but it's
So
amazing.
yeah.
Even in that aspect, he took those harder alternative tunes and turned them into something tremendously special and
He
well
did.
emotional. Yeah.
Yes, that's a really good point. There was so much emotion in those albums that it was just uh, really incredible. But I think that's what made him so popular. They found a way to take that because you could tell he's getting very old, and
Yep.
but yet he could still do this. And so I mean, so many young people got into Johnny Cash because of that.
Well, I remember seeing some videos, and I'm not sure if it was just from a documentary or just some people dissecting his decision to make those recordings, but they say that that was truly the rejuvenation of Johnny Cash toward the end of his career. You mentioned earlier that he had kind of run the gamut, if you will, with his country side of things, and so this was a huge risk with working with the producer on this to really let's do something different. Let's do something to reintroduce you. And there's not really, I think, a more fitting way for him to end his career than with that series.
Yeah. And when you think it's Rick Rubens that was
Yeah.
so big
Yeah.
with all the rap and everything that was happening, but it just goes to show he had that gentle side to him that he can coax the best out of people. And of course, then Neil Diamond went in to record a similar kind of album.
Yep.
And that one didn't do nearly as well, but it was Neil Diamond's Americana
Mm-hmm.
type music. So it was interesting.
So now let's move it forward a little bit. I forgot to mention I just was going to toss in some Credence in there as well in the 70s, but that was got stuck down on my pile. But something like Fogerty's Center Field as well,
Mhm.
the album that got him sued for sounding too much like John Fogerty.
Yeah.
But Center Field in its own right too, this is just a great American album. Got that
Yeah.
look, that sound and feel.
I'll throw in Emmylou Harris for Americana.
Yeah.
Now, she obviously gets lumped a lot of times into country, but she was a folk singer. That's her love, what she did. And her 70s albums are absolutely beautiful. I mean, what she did with Graham Parsons, very, very country.
Mm-hmm.
But when she came out and did her own, it's like this one. This is from the mid '90s, Wrecking Ball. This is by far my favorite Emmylou Harris album. Her next one, Red Dirt, is my second favorite because it's not really hard country. This is this is pure Americana happening. And then on Record Store Day, they released this one with Mark Knopfler.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Again, and this there is some country, but it's very Americana. Even the album cover looks that way. But it's a wonderful album. What Emmylou Harris and Knopfler did together was great, and I was so happy to get this. This has been one of my favorite Record Store Day albums,
Cool.
Jim. But I thought Emmylou was incredible on this.
I had to stop and think for a second. I'm not a big expert at all on Emmylou Harris, but I pulled this down off the wall while you were talking. This is one of her early albums, Gilding Bird. Unfamiliar with it, but it's, according to Discogs, one of the ones that goes on the wall of a record store when it's in stock somewhere. Are you
Okay.
familiar with this one much at all, or?
I have never listened to it.
It's from, I don't even see a year on it. I'd have to look that one up, but it's one of her very early albums. So it's going to be probably
Yeah.
country folk on Jubilee Records in there. I guess I'll give this one a listen and see. I don't even remember a year on that. I would have that written down somewhere, but still fun.
We should put that on a playlist.
I think we will if I can find it on there. We will. Now, hold on. It's got to go back up on the wall first.
There we go. Yeah, because that's where it's supposed to be.
That's where they go. Now, I mentioned Bella Fleck earlier. He had partnered up with the Renee Fleming, and I do have some other Bella Fleck stuff. This one was from 2021. It's called My Bluegrass Heart. And this has got, much like a lot of these other ones, this was a great double LP with a booklet that's falling out on me, or a poster rather, and just some great artwork inside of there. Double LP, but it has got the likes of Jerry Douglas, who we've mentioned several times on here as well. Billy Strings is on this, Molly Tuttle, David Grisman, Sierra Hall, and Bella Fleck just called in some favors apparently to create just a fabulous bluegrass album in this case. But again, with that feel, and maybe it's just the banjo. I've never been a huge banjo guy, but in the right hands, I think that it can be done absolutely
Well,
correctly.
yes. It's Steve Martin,
Yeah,
who
oh
is
yeah.
an incredible banjo player
Yep.
with the Stone Mountain Canyon Band.
Yep.
Very much they've done some Americana type music. I've seen them in concert 2 or 3
I was
times.
going to say they played
Uh,
here in Midland too when you lived here. They
Yep,
played at the
you
Center
couldn't
for the
miss that.
Arts.
And I used to have a lot of Bella Flick CDs. Especially from the '90s, and when I was getting into jazz, Bella Flick became because he's part jazz. He does a lot of jazz
Yep.
too, banjo jazz. Who doesn't want banjo jazz? It's like bagpipe jazz. Oh wow! But it was pretty good stuff. Unlike bagpipe jazz that I've
No,
listened
no
to, I go,
bagpipe jazz.
that's awful, man. That's awful.
Well, let's get very very current here, and this is somebody both of us have seen separately live, but also collect, and that's Billy Strings. And
Hmm.
this is modern bluegrass meets jam band stuff from the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
So, does this for you fall into the spirit of Americana? I would say it does, even though it touches a lot of the other stuff. This is Tinfoil and Turmoil, by the way, which can be a tough album to find. I've had that on back order from our distributors forever and a half. I finally broke down and bought. I think actually it showed up on his website, I think, and I got some from there. But that and my absolute favorite, the Highway Prayers is good, but my favorite Billy Strings is his album Home from 2019. I think this was his big breakout album.
Yeah,
Tinfoil and
that
Turmoil did
was.
well, but that was kind of a let's go back and rediscover it after Home just actually exploded him onto the scene.
Hmm. Well, behind you, there's a picture of an album cover from Mumford and Sons. So
Oh,
if we
yep.
want to talk about brand new, Americana coming in, here's a UK band that comes in, blows it up in America by playing Americana music. And after that, you have like the Averitt brothers, which I used to have. My first collection had a lot of Americana because in the 2010s, Mumford and Sons blew it up.
Yep.
Trampled by Turtles, Averitt brothers. Um, there was, oh gosh darn it. I'm going blank on it, but there's so many groups that came out. It was so popular. And so I was buying CDs and albums, but when I redid the collection, I'd kind of gotten away from it. But some of the ones that I did bring back was from Sweden, First Aid Kit.
Hmm.
They make this album is The Lion's Roar, and this is one of their earlier albums. And it's two sisters, and actually they have a song on here, a tribute to Emmy Lou, that is just it's heartbreaking. It is so good. But their catalog is very much folk Americana. And the way they blend their harmonies together is one of the most beautiful things. They're a favorite group of mine. But they bring that music back in. Robert Plant has loved Americana
Oh,
music. You
yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
a guy, he's made other groups. I mean, I have I saw him in concert with Alison Krauss, and here we have Raising Sand, which is my favorite of the albums him and Alison Krauss have put together. But they took these folk standards and they made it their own. Alison Krauss is a cross between country, bluegrass, and Americana herself
Mhm.
with her playing. And this was such, I mean, there's so many good songs on this. Again, the blending of voices. And who would have ever thought Robert Plant? But then he's went on and had other groups that are pure Americana.
Yep.
And because he has that love. And the final one that just, this guy blew up in the aughts, Jason Isbell, who started with the drive-by truckers, had a drinking problem, which they all did, but he just went above and beyond with his. And so he got kicked out, but he became a solo artist. And I would say he's probably one of the biggest Americana artists out there now. He's come to Midland too. I saw him in Midland
Okay.
play, and I saw him play one other place. But he really understands the genre and how to make it, how to put a tune together with it, and just excellent music by him. And I have a number of his albums, so I still do have some Americana in my collection, just not the massive amount I used to have.
You can do some digging and you'll find that in there. And there's one that I just happened to realize I forgot to toss in there with the Billy Strings. It was a fairly recent live one with Billy Strings and Brian Sutton live at the Legion in Nashville, Tennessee, recorded in 2024. Very intimate audience with Brian Sutton and Strings doing a lot of Americana standards on this. A lot of, Tom Dooley, Texas Gales, Last Day at Gettysburg, Salt Creek, Traveling Man. Another very cool one through there too. Also need to mention too, you pointed out behind me on there the Mumford and Sons. That's actually a piece of artwork done by my daughter Katie way back when she was in high school. She used to do a lot of art, and that was one of her favorite groups at that point in time. So she
Yeah.
recreated the album cover and let me hang that here in the store behind me.
And she did a great job. That looks
Very much
great.
so, always.
Yeah.
Do you have any more that you want to show off? Because I've got one that's
That's
going to be
pretty much
questionable.
what I have that I pulled. I
Okay,
dig more, but then I have to put them away, Jim.
that's true. You got that new record room though, so everything should be back fairly easily. You don't have boxes anymore. All right, on the subject of an American artist, great songwriting and storytelling thrown in there. I am going to go out on a limb, Steve, and ask you, can I include Stan Ridgway and his album The Big Heat in Americana? Stan Ridgway, of course, the lead singer from Wall of Voodoo, Mexican radio fame. Are
Hmm.
you familiar with this album at all?
No, I am not. Not at all.
This was from 1986, I think. Hang on here. Let me see. 1986. Discogs calls this alternative rock, new wave, and synth pop.
Okay.
I don't
It
know if
doesn't
I'm going
sound
to take
very Americana whatsoever,
well,
Jim.
if I'm going to take some big heat on this, see the pun intended, and call this
Yeah.
maybe stretching it to be an Americana album simply because of his storytelling. Each of the songs on here has got the feel of a Petty or a Springsteen with that type of telling a story about rural America, or just in this case, one of the big ones. Well, there's the big heats on there, but Pile Driver Drive, she said, is an interesting song. You'd have to listen to it to kind of get the feel for what he's talking about, Salesman. But the big one for me on here is a Vietnam era song called Camouflage, that is part paying tribute to the soldiers in Vietnam, part telling a ghost story, if you will, about something through there. But this one to me, his voice. You cannot not hear Wall of Voodoo when you listen to this album,
Yeah.
because Stan Ridgway has got such a distinctive way that he vocalizes when he's singing through here. But you strip away the synth pop. I don't think it's synth pop. It sounds a little alternative, but for me, this really does capture the storytelling element of a true Americana album in the way that he separates these songs. It's not a concept album by any means. It's just a grouping of songs that each, into their own right, tell a really cool story.
Hmm. Okay.
So I'll take
Well,
I'll take heat on that.
I'll just go with you, Jim. I'll just say, okay, yeah, put it there.
I'll put a couple of those songs for sure. And since we're wrapping up, it'll be toward the end of the playlist, so you can make your judgment on that as well. And you folks too, chime in, let me know, and see what you think on there. So obviously, with a genre this encompassing, we're going to miss a few, and there's so
Mhm.
many more that we could probably dive into. I mean, I mentioned Billy Strings kind of carrying the mantle on the jam band from the Grateful Dead. Do we
Yeah,
throw that in? Is that more psychedelia? Is that more country rock? It depends on which Dead you're listening to at that point. But
you're
there are a
right.
lot of others.
Abs- yeah, and Garcia went out on his own with solo
Yeah.
stuff, which kind of definitely he had more of that folk type feel, and I think especially some of his solo work would fit in with that.
And I think what's great is that you can take the overarching genre of Americana music, and obviously, with a little bit of stretching, make it fit into different types of albums if you think that you can do that. But aside from that, I think that this is, especially this time of year when you're thinking a little more about the country and what we have stood for, but historically and musically, so much has come from this, and it has obviously influenced, like you said, overseas, bringing in the likes of Mumford and Sons and the other which one from Sweden did you mention? What
First
was
aid kit,
First Aid Kit?
first
Okay,
aid kit.
so
Yeah.
obviously there's something to be said about the way that we've done music from the 40s and 50s and while even 20s and 30s onward to the
Hmm.
early 2000s, that has really kind of struck a chord with folks as far as the way our singers and songwriters work.
Yeah, I we all like a good story.
Yep.
And that becomes the basis of so much of it, especially when you listen to it from the 20s and 30s and the stories that they, of course, a lot of people get killed, murder. In
Yes.
fact, in that CD box set, two CDs are just dedicated to murder ballads.
Yes. Well, especially a lot of the older, even Woody Guthrie, for crying out loud, some of his protest songs, but even going back to, he wrote a song. It was the massacre of 1913 about the Calumet Hecla, a church disaster up in Upper Peninsula, Michigan, where was it like 70 people got trampled in kind of an anti-union protest thing. Huge story. Maybe we'll have to delve into that at some point in time. But yeah, Guthrie wrote just a haunting song about that.
Yeah, but
Well,
it's American history,
it is American
and
history, and
they're
we're ending on
taking
such.
it, and just so you don't forget.
Yep.
Here's let's sing about this, and some of it comes really fast. I mean, you just even think about Neil Young's song "Ohio."
Yep.
I mean, he
Oh yeah.
wrote it immediately after he heard that. I mean, bam, right there.
Yep.
Is that Americana though, or is that rock? I don't.
Well, yes. Whether you could throw
Yes.
in, maybe we should do an episode on
Yeah.
songs that are born out of tragedy as well. I don't want to end on a down note. We need something to pick me up here, Steve. I think I'm going to go back to some Billy Strings and Bella Fleck, and we'll
There we
pick things
go.
up a bit as we wrap ourselves up. So yeah, please, folks, chime in. Let us know some of the other Americana favorites that are on your list. Stuff that you thoroughly enjoy. Stuff we may have missed out on. Artists that hold a special place because of the way that they tell the story through their song and through their playing. I think that's a great combination of it all. That rings true for us as Americans.
Yeah, totally. It is that special genre, and there are people that's all they want to listen to, and that's great. It's kind of right in between everything.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, you have been listening and/or watching to two guys talking about records, a vinyl community podcast. Next week, Steve, I think that if it all works out, I think the scheduling is we're going to have a very special guest on. Let me finalize that. But, this year we talk a lot about 50th anniversary albums that have been kind of running through, stuff that came out in
Yeah.
76 how about we dive back and talk about something that is celebrating its 60th anniversary and maybe bring in someone who's involved with that.
I think, you know what? That sounds like must listen to podcast.
There we go. So we'll tease that a little bit more when I'm absolutely firmed up on our guest, but we should have a very special guest next week that should be very fascinating, talking about how one song just kind of birthed a garage rock movement. How's that?
Yep, it'd be great.
All right, folks. So until then, next time, my name is Jim, and I own a record store.
I'm Steve, a record collector.
Have a great 4th of July, everyone, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks again, Steve.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you, Jim. Bye, everyone.